Okay, everybody, welcome to the first shir on the topic of dating. Dating is a process. Dating is not something that really has like a span of time that this is my time dating. Everybody's different. Somebody can date for really, especially in a Haredi world, they can date for a week and a half, and that's their whole dating experience. Yeah, people can date for a month, 2 months, 3 months, and that's their whole experience. And people can date for much, much longer than that. Yeah, very, very long time, and that becomes a major part of their life. So, when we're talking about dating, really, we're not talking about a tekufa of your life, like being a teenager, which is a tekufa of your life, or being a parent, being a grandparent, being an adolescent, or being a toddler. It's not a tekufa in life. It could be that a person will define themselves, and most people do certainly define themselves by what happens to them and what they do, but this is not something that has to be a certain way. It doesn't have to be that way. Every person is different. Every person is going to go through this process in their way, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu knows what each person needs. A lot of times people are just not developed enough and they're not ready to get married, even though they think they are. Sometimes a person has to go through certain experiences in their life in order to really be ready to be married. And until those things happen, they're just not ready. They're not ready to be married. Other times, you can have a person, first girl he dates, few dates, and that's it. Certainly if you're Hasidish, but we're not talking about the Hasidish style over here. Obviously, the purpose of dating is to get married. We're not goyim, yeah. To talk about goyim is going to be the differences between Jews and goyim when we talk about the shir on being shomer negia and these types of things will be a different shir. But certainly, the hashgachah of a Torah observant person is we date because there's a tachlis. We're trying to get married because marriage is ultimately where every person needs to be, because HaKadosh Baruch Hu created man to be married, like we know from Parshas Bereishis, lo tov, that a person adam levado. It's not good. HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants people to get married. People think that holiness only comes from being separate. It's the exact opposite. Being separate is not holy. Being ba'achdus is holy. So again, we're not going to go through the Christian philosophy and other philosophies in the world of marriage and interpersonal relationships between men and women on this shir, but we should know that dating is something that is a heyot. It's a way of getting to what is the ultimate to'eles, in a person's life. Now, to begin with, the most important starting point for dating is knowing where you are. That is essential. It is very scary to see that people are going into dating and they have no idea where they're going. I personally have a lot of experience with this because I've dated a lot of girls who didn't know what they were interested in. And it was quite frustrating for me because you're going out with a girl and the shadchan tells you, oh yeah, she wants a guy. I wanted to learn in kollel. Yeah, she wants to learn in kollel. Okay. Yeah. After 3 dates, it became very clear that this girl did not want to learn in kollel. A guy learning in kollel, she didn't want to have that lifestyle. So why you set me up in the first place? Well, in a lot of these situations, the answer was she didn't really know. She didn't really know. She thought it sounded nice, is what her friends were doing, it sounded good, and the seminary teachers all tell you this and that, and it sounds all fluffy and nice, which is, by the way, why I never wanted to go out with any girls, which I call fresh back from seminary. I dated in America. And girls who come fresh back from seminary are a little bit high in the clouds, and they think, wow, it's so beautiful, and they don't really understand what that means. And if you tell me that right after seminary this is what you want, I can't necessarily believe you. Why? because show me that it's really going to hold. Show me that that's really who you are. You stay another year after working hard and either in school or at a job and doing things, and this is still what you want, that shows me that it's real. So a lot of times people just didn't know, and only through the dating process they learn. But that's a very painful way of learning. It's a very painful way of learning what you want or don't want from the dating process. And also it's a bit dangerous, because how do you know it's really going to happen that way? A lot of times you meet somebody and there's a certain charm, a certain chen that they have, and it's out there, and people get swept off their feet. Wow, unbelievable. And it turns out this is really not nogea. This is really not shaykh. They're coming from completely different backgrounds. They really don't get each other, but she laughs at every one of his jokes, and he feels so good even though he's really insecure around her, and they get along great, but really hashgaphically they're way off from each other. Each one thinks the other one is, and in the best case scenario, in that case, so they'll break up with a broken heart. In the worst case scenario, it could be much worse than that. The Maisa, it's so important for each person to take stock of themselves. Who am I? Where am I going? What do I want to do? Because you need to represent yourself properly. The person has to go in. You don't have to have every single detail of your life worked out. You don't have to, have already, signed your kids up who don't exist for this school and that school. You don't have, but you do have to have a general direction. You have to have a general plan. If a person says to me, I want to sit and learn Koil for 5 years and then I want to go to work, that's a general plan. How exactly? I'm not sure exactly. Well, are you good at anything? Yeah, I'm good. I remember my Rabbi Finkelman, told us that he, when he was trying to figure out what he was going to do, so he sat down with his Rebbe. I think it was Reb Gedalia Shor, and he said he wanted to go into chinuch. He wanted to, be involved in teaching Torah. So his Rebbe said to him, well, it doesn't work for everybody. It doesn't work out for everybody. So what do you plan on doing if it doesn't work out? So he said, well, I'm pretty good with my hands. I'm thinking maybe, I go into painting, or maybe an electrician, or maybe things like that. And his Rebbe said to him, okay, but don't think you're not going to have any nisyonos doing that also. There'll be nisyonos in any of those things. You can have a plan. I might not be sure 100% of my plan. I have a goal, but if that doesn't work out, I'm willing to try something else. I'm willing to do this. I'm willing to do that. So you don't have to have every single nekuda of your life planned out. You don't. But do I have a general mahalech? Do I have a dream, a goal? I'm going to work towards something. I'm going to try to get there, whatever that is. Again, whether that be in high tech, whether it be in medicine, whether it be in accounting, whether it be in Torah, whether it be in a lot of different areas. But I have a plan. I've thought about it. And this is what I want to do. This is how I want to build my life. This is generally where I want to live. Somebody like from American, many American young couples who want to come to Eretz Yisrael for a year or two to start off their marriage with a koilel lifestyle, in order to make that Torah the foundations of their home, and then after however amount of time, a year, 2 years, 3 years, whatever it is, some people 10 years, then I'm ready to go out and make a parnasa, and in the meantime my wife's make a parnasa. Yeah, that is a plan too. That's a plan too, and nobody's going to judge which plan is a good plan, is not a good plan. Obviously, a person should go over whatever their plan is with somebody they trust, whether it be their parent, or whether it be their Rebbe, or whether it be their Rav, or whether it be an older friend, a mentor. They should go over their plan with somebody to make sure just that the plan makes sense. It's very easy for a person to fool themselves into thinking that this is okay. What I'm doing is a great idea, and really it's terrible. Really, you being completely negligent. So that's very important, and it's always important to have a mentor, always have a rebbe or somebody you trust, somebody you can talk to, who, and this is both for boys and girls, obviously, yeah, to make sure that I'm not deluding myself into thinking that my plan is the best plan in the world and it's going to be great, yeah. You need a plan. What HaKadosh Baruch Hu does is almost every time, I shouldn't say almost, every time it's somewhat different. Every time. You thought you were going to be in Koilil for 5 years, you were only in Koilil for a year and a half. You thought you were going to be in Eretz Yisrael for 2 years, you ended up being in Eretz Yisrael for 10 years. You thought that you were going to go into accounting, well, really you ended up going into fundraising. Yeah, I have a friend who came to Eretz Yisrael with a great degree. He was an actuary. I don't know, you know what an actuary is. An actuary is somebody who deals with a lot of numbers, statistics, different things. Lamaisa, these people have the opportunity and ability to make a lot of money as an actuary. But this person did not spend very much time working as an actuary, and actually now his main purpose is fundraising for tzedakos, and that's what he's been doing for a long time. And all that time and effort he put into being an actuary, he's not using it. But that's because of Kodesh Baruch Hu took him on a different path. I have what I think is a responsible way of living, and that's what I'm going with. If that's what's going to actually end up happening with your life, well, Kodesh Baruch Hu's in charge. I'm going to try my best. If Kodesh Baruch Hu gives you a different option, he gives you a different opportunity, then obviously a person has to talk with when you're married already, with your wife about it, and also with your mentor, whoever that is this the right thing for me? And it could very well be that your life might change in that way. But I still had a plan. I still was being responsible about it. And when you're starting to date, you certainly need that. It needs to have a direction. Now that all of that could just be with regards to, okay, what I plan on doing with my life, which is a big part of your life, right? What I do with my day is a very big part of your life. Very big part of your life. So we have to think about that beforehand. But even when you go a little bit deeper, or a lot deeper, a person can only get to that point if they really understand who they are as a person. Who am I? This is a very difficult question, and it's a question that most people don't like to think about. It's a question that most people try to run away from. And it's chaval, because this is the most important question in your life, because you can't really grow or be anything unless you are yourself first. That's what you have to be first. It's a very scary question, because sometimes people, when they look down into themselves, they don't like what they see. Sometimes they're disappointed in themselves. Sometimes they think, I really could be better. Why am I not? Why am I not being better than the way that I really know I could be? And people would rather just not think about it. The more a person has self-knowledge, the more they'll have self-confidence. The more they'll have self-esteem. Because a person really knows every person is worth something. Worth a lot. Right? The Gemara says, Mishnah in Sanhedrin, Bishvili Nivra Olam. Every person was created as an individual to say, the world was created for me. And the truth is, even if the Mishnah wouldn't have said it, every person has a feeling inside themselves that says, I'm special. And if a person doesn't have that feeling, it's because they squashed it. Or they think somebody else squashed it. Because that's natural. It's a natural feeling for every person to have, that I'm special. I'm unique. There's something different about me than everybody else. And the reason a person has that feeling is because it's true. Every person does have a very special and unique thing about them that there is nobody else in the world that has. And the more the person is in touch with that and really has that feeling, then they can develop themselves. And they can develop, who am I? Where am I going? What am I doing? Am I a person who dedicates myself to any number of different things? Every person wants to feel like they're doing something meaningful. My life has a meaning to it. Every person, and the truth is every person does. It's just that sometimes people get carried away with other things. Sometimes because of life circumstances, they try to run away. Unfortunately, this is very true with different types of drugs, narcotics, or alcohol, or other types of addictions that people use to escape, to try to escape from their lives. Because when they would, if they would look into their own hearts, they would not be happy with what they see. Because they know they're disappointing themselves. And what's ironic is by actually running away, it just makes it worse. Yeah? When they wake up from whatever state they're in, and they just feel depressed, I'm that guy. I'm the guy who's running away from life. They don't even want to come to the point where they're going to think about that. So therefore, they'll run away. It's a terrible downward spiral. So what can a person do about it? Well, one of the things that a person can do about it is speaking it out. Speaking it out with somebody you trust. Again, whoever that is, whoever that person is. It could be a good friend, it could be a mentor, it could be a rav, it could be a rebbe, it could be a sibling, parent, it could be a lot of different people. Who is the person that I can trust and talk to about me? About becoming me? That is essential. First steps. Because when you're dating, you have to know yourself. You're going to bond with somebody else. You're going to create a home with somebody else. You need to know who you are. A lot of times what happens, is kind of funny, is that a person who doesn't do that somehow gets married. How do they, by the way, just how does somebody get married? How do you get married like that? No, does everybody do this? No, of course not. Of course they don't. But they get married. So why do they don't need to come to the shir. Okay, so we're going to change the name of the shir. Right? We're going to turn the shir into a dating in a healthy way shir. So you can date without coming to the shir.
What was the first title?
What?
What was the first
The shir on dating.
Title?
Yeah. A person can date. Yeah. And theoretically, if a person grew up in a place where they very much bought into the system, where they feel very confident, they were given a lot of confidence in their derech, and they have clarity in their life, and they never thought about rebellion, or they never thought about a different type of life, and they're very, very straight, and so even such a person is always in danger of, like, hey, one day waking up and saying, I never gave the other options a chance, so maybe there is something out there. And those are very, very scary situations where people pick up and leave, and they can leave a wife and kids, and those are very, very sad and scary situations. But most people won't fall into that. A person theoretically can have such a state of being where I was on the same track my whole life, and I never thought differently. And that's how I ended up more or less going through life without really thinking about who they are. At some point in time in everybody's life, they're going to have to make a decision about whether or not what they're doing is good. Should I change, or should I just ignore? Just keep ignoring. Pushing those thoughts aside, and just keep going. And a person, unfortunately, can end up at some point at the end of their life really feeling quite empty, because I went my whole life with ignoring myself. I went my whole life without really discovering me. That's very sad. You can have a person who has a midlife crisis and do anything crazy in order to try to rediscover or discover themselves for the first time. Yeah, you can have people who never do that and never really have full fulfillment in their life. So the main thing, like I said before, let's discover ourselves. How do I do that? What do I do? How do I discover myself? I think everybody here, to a certain degree, everybody listening, I'm hoping to the recording as well, can stop for a little bit, and it is scary to do, and say, hey, what's the most important things in my life? And why are they the most important things in my life? Do I feel like I have a good relationship with God? Do I feel like I'm proud of myself? And if so, why? And if not, also why? And when a person answers those questions for themselves, then they can start to see, hey, what's really important to me? What do I really want to do? What do I want to really accomplish in life? Everybody wants to feel good about themselves, but everybody's different. That's why a shir like this is not going to tell you, this is your derech. Your derech is this, your derech is that. No. Every person has to stop and think for themselves. Everybody wants fulfillment in life. Everybody wants a meaningful life. The question is, what's my meaning in life? What's yours? And everybody's different. And that's something that's very personal. Yes, we have a Torah, and the Torah gives us guidelines of how to live. But each person's emotions are very different. It's very interesting. I saw recently quoted from the Chovos HaLevavos, Shar Cheshbon HaNefesh, I believe, that the whole purpose of mitzvahs ayivorim, mitzvahs that we do with our bodies, the whole purpose of the mitzvahs that we do with our bodies is in order that we can strengthen and get to the point where we can strengthen our mitzvah sichlias, Chovos HaLevavos, the chov on the lev. Meaning that HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't just want us to shake a lulav. Obviously, shaking a lulav is a mitzvah and it accomplishes a great thing. Yeah, lighting Hanukkah candles, Darabbanan, but still, fasting on Yom Kippur, eating on Shabbos, keeping Shabbos. Hashem wants us to do all these things, but it's in order so we can get down into our hearts, so that the physical things on the outside can have an effect on us on the inside, so that we can start to feel things, so we can start to feel closer relationship with Hashem. But each person is very, very different. They can have big Gedolei Torah. They all look exactly the same, but they're all very, very different. Yeah, what's the difference between Reb Chaim Kanievsky and Rabbi Yashiv and Reb Moshe Feinstein and Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky and the Stipler? And what's the difference? They're all the same. They're not all the same. Not at all. Each one seems to be, well, we mean they all dress the same. They're all learning the same Torah. They're all incredible individuals. Each one with their own special relationship with Hashem and their own unique understanding of themselves. And that's incredible. Incredible. Because even though they all look very much the same, and that's really how the secular world, I guess, looks at the Haredi world, is that they're just one big black mass. Yeah, there's no individuality. In the secular world, everybody's an individual. If anything, it's exactly the opposite. Because in the secular world, they all have the same typos. They're all running after the same things. So really, they're all one big mass. There's no, there are different ways of running after the same thing. Different ways of running after... The individuality over there is very shitchi, very shallow. When it comes to the individuality in a person who is connected to Hashem, his individuality is in his heart, which is really what makes up who you are. And that's what everybody knows that. When we do things on the outside to be independent, to be different, because I want to stand out, that's all chitzoni. That's all on the outside. We want to get to the inside, because the inside is what's really valuable. How do I feel? I'll just give one example of that. We're speaking about dress. Dress is not really a topic when it comes to dating, but dress in general shows both inwardly and outwardly who you are. A person wants to express who I am to other people, so I dress a certain way and they look at me and they say, oh, you're that person. Whether you like it or not, your dress is going to tell other people who you are. So if you want to fool other people into thinking you're a certain way, so you dress one way when you're really not that way. But most of the time people don't want to do that. People do want to express who they are. So a soldier wears a soldier's uniform. I'm a soldier. And when somebody looks at me, they say, that's a soldier. A policeman wears a police uniform. So if a person wants to show I'm this, that's the way I dress. But it's inwardly. I want to be this person, so I'm going to dress that way too. Yes, it's very chitzoni. Dress is very chitzoni, but it shows both ways. I once said to somebody, you care about dress a lot more than I do. Why? Because I know who I am, and I dress this way because I want to associate myself with a certain group. So that's how I dress. But it doesn't really mean very much to me. If the whole group would get up and change and we'd all be wearing purple shirts instead, so I'd have to change my wardrobe a little bit. It might cost some money, but okay, it's not like I like white versus any other color. That's not my point. Why? Because I have an understanding of myself, and the dress just reflects that. Somebody who puts a very big emphasis on their dress, with either a woman or somebody who hasn't really connected on the inside, because their big focus on the outside shows that they don't feel good about themselves necessarily. And this happens very, very much, especially with younger people. So that's just an example. Yes, really.
How do you explain the opposite side of someone who dresses very simple? Someone who doesn't necessarily have a dress code.
Okay. Meaning there are different ways of looking at that as a dress code. Dress code means that he dresses differently every single time, or doesn't have a dress code because he's not looking to be fancy. What does it mean he doesn't have a dress code?
I mean, you can't really tell the individuality. Like if you look at a soldier, they're all dressed the same way.
Right.
So I'm saying, how do you prove the point of your dress code really says?
Well, that's what's really good. You see, that's a great example. Let's take a soldier. You have a whole bunch of soldiers. They all dress the same way. So there's no way to tell the difference between them by their dress. But you can very easily from the outside say, oh, this person's a soldier. But you don't really know anything about them.
Right, so how could you tell if someone's wearing black and white? How could you tell who he is?
Well, that's exactly the point. You can't. So how do you have to get to know them.
So does dress code have value?
Absolutely it does. Absolutely it does. Let's explain why. It's a good question. Why does dress code have value? Dress code has value because it makes you have to find what's going on the inside. There's no way to know. Let's take a soldier. All the soldiers are dressed the same. Yeah? So okay, it's true, the higher ranking you have a few more bananas or whatever it is on your so those things, falafels, bananas, falafels, whatever they are, stars, you have a few more of those things, so that's the level I'm at. That's the level, So in the yeshiva world, there are no falafels. Okay, it's true. The Rosh Yeshivas wear a certain different type of hat, and you got the two buttons on the back also. The truth of the matter is, every avrech who wants to and gets married can have one of those as well. Okay, the fancy, really, really hard hat maybe you won't get until you're like 85 years old. But for the most part, you can't tell. You can't tell. They all dress the same, which is amazing. And it really brings out this point. Why? Because to them, you're looking at them at the outside, they're just associated with the group. You don't know who the person is. You can't identify the person from the outside. You have to get to know them. The only way to really judge who they are is by getting to know them. You can't judge them by... The only thing you could say about the code, he's a Haredi guy. He looks like he's older, so he's probably married and probably an avrech. So okay, fine. That's very, very little. You can't really get very much. The only way to really understand the person is get to know them, which is one of the big problems with not dressing, for a woman not dressing in a tznuah way. Because when a woman doesn't dress in a tznuah way, so when a man meets her, automatically, the attraction is going to go based on something chitzoni, without necessarily getting to know who they are on the inside. And really, that's where the connection has to be made. You want to have a real kesher, you have to connect on the inside. But if you're already stuck on the outside, you're already there on the outside, and honestly, I don't really need anything else, right? I'm good with that. So then you never get that kesher on the inside.
So dress code is more,
it's more of a way to connect to your pinimis.
It's more of a tznuah thing than an ideology.
It's a way to be able to get past the outside and be able to connect to somebody on the inside. It's very sad when people have very shallow relationships. You know, what's our relationship based on? Our relationship is based on nothing. Maybe we'll have a different shir on different levels of relationships. Maybe that will be another type of shir we should have about this. There are many, very, very many different types of relationships, and we want, if you in marriage certainly, you want to have a deep internal relationship. You want to have a relationship where you really feel connected to your spouse. That's what everybody wants, because when you get there, you'll understand that this is the core of your life. But I need to be me first. If I'm me first, so then I can really connect with who I am to my wife, and that's where you have a deep, deep inner connection. So that's the first stop. That's the first stage. When a person is, again, we're not finished products, but I understand who I am. I understand where I want to be going. I'm not there yet, but I want to be there, and I'm working on it, and I'm thinking about it. And even if some of these questions are very scary, I'm not giving up, and I'm putting in the effort all the time to really improve myself and be the best me that there is. So once a person is at that point, and they are ready, at least to start looking, and not already to get married, because I am myself. I know who I am, and I know where I'm going, and now I want to find the person who is going to connect with me where I am and in the direction that I'm going. The more a person has that feeling, the easier it will be to find that person that they're looking for, and they'll be able to find it in the right place and not get stuck in externals, and not decide to marry somebody because of outside related things. Do I really feel that this person is connected to me, or she has a very pretty face and your parents have a lot of money, and a lot of the things that I thought I wanted to have in life I can get through her, so when we get along great, she laughs at all my jokes, and so okay, a person can get married like that. They could, and it could even be later on in life they'll go back, but a lot of times that's a very big struggle when you're rediscovering yourself. Once you're married already, that's torture for you, and it's a terror for your spouse, because who is this guy? And I married this guy, and now all of a sudden he's somebody else. It's terrifying. Who am I going to end up with? Is he even going to be here tomorrow? Yeah? And that's a person who is sensitive enough to wake up at some point in his life. The person doesn't ever wake up, so then always the relationship will never be deep. It can only be as deep as you are deep. You can only connect to your spouse to a depth that you are. If you're not there, so then how do you expect to connect with somebody at the place where you're not? Okay, so we're going to stop over here. The first year. And Be'ez Hashem, I hope the weekly will continue. Shkoyach. No.